And we are live. What's up, y'all? This is another edition of Marriage and Business. Over the last week or so, I've been talking to a lot of entrepreneurs, getting their perspective on how they navigate this. I think people are crazy to do marriage and business together, but there's still a dynamic, even if you're not doing it together as an entrepreneur, having a spouse that and the support that spouse gives you. And only people who are entrepreneurs understand the all of the turns and the twists and the things that's necessary. And so today, I have a friend, a client, all this special person to be with me today, Peggy Page. What is up, Peggy? Let me get you in here, girl. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I am doing amazing. Man, give people a 1 minute spiel as to who you are before we jump in and just get down and dirty with this conversation.
Okay. Are you getting feedback?
I am not. Are you?
No, it's just a delay. I'll get used to it.
Okay.
Hey, so I started out in real estate about 4 years ago as a realtor. Prior to that, I had a job. My husband is a salary employee, and I always had this crazy ambition to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to be my own boss. So, yeah, I took the leap, and it's been a fun experience ever since. And of course, I have all these other ideas, but real estate has really been my jam and something I've enjoyed doing. So, is that short enough?
That's perfect. That's perfect because it gives us enough to know and understand what life looks like being a W-2 employee and the home is normal, right? It's normal and it's happy until it's disrupted with this entrepreneurship thing and it's like, hold on, what's going on here, right? Like, so how did you guys navigate that? Like, you are disrupting normal.
Oh goodness. I was definitely the disruptor. And my husband is, I love and appreciate him. He's very supportive of me. However, I've been kind of fighting him to join forces with me for like a long time. I finally had to give up and just be like, I guess we're gonna do our own thing. He's gonna do his thing. I'm gonna do my thing. We're just gonna be supportive of each other. But I was definitely the disruptor big time. Because as an entrepreneur, especially for other people who are very W-2 minded, they look at you like you're crazy. You have all these big ideas. You're probably gonna fail. But the wonderful thing about my husband is he's never verbalized those. But I can read his mind. I think his thought
is. So you feel like those are some of the thoughts that he's having. How do you live day to day thinking that he has those thoughts and not addressing them or not having that conversation?
Honestly, I think it was more in the beginning. I don't think he still has those thoughts. I was just so driven that I didn't really care if he had those thoughts. And I know that sounds terrible, but just like I can't sway him to become an entrepreneur, he can't really sway me at this point to go get a job and not work for myself anymore. So we just, yeah, I know that sounds terrible, like I don't care, because I do care, don't get me wrong. But I mean, as long as he's just been super supportive. So I guess I don't want to. We've had some deeper conversations like that, and we've pulled some stuff out and talked about it. Thank goodness, because you do have to work through things, right? You have to make sure you're on the same page.
Yeah.
But I think the way he just looks at it is, as long as I don't get in her way, she'll be good. So yeah.
Now, how you've disrupted life as known, and he's still in that W-2 world. How has that affected y'all's time together, from just like spending time and even you being present when you are spending time? Because I know as an entrepreneur, we're always thinking about getting the bag and what's next and this idea and this deal, and how do you deal with calming your mind and being in the moment?
In the beginning, that was a struggle. I couldn't pull my mind off work and what I wanted to do. And so I was very guilty of working 16 plus hours a day. And then when we would spend time together, talking about it. So I had to be, honestly, it was when he showed me his vulnerability, because at first I didn't notice it. So he kind of had to come to me and be like, hey, this isn't making me happy. Like, you just work all the time, and then when we're together, you want to talk about work. And so I had to make a conscious effort, because I value my relationship so much that I have to. So now I kind of get grumpy, because I try to shut down by a certain time in the evening. And I try not to talk about work much, right? Unless it's the whole, how was your day? And you got to talk about, your day, right? So, other than that, I mean, literally, I have like date day on calendar now. And like I said, I just try to be conscious, like in the evenings. It's like, okay, Peggy, you don't need to work. It's evening time. Let's like hang out with your family. So your husband
That's cool.
especially.
That's cool. And it sounds like these conversations, you were very receptive of what he was sharing and made some adjustments, because I coach people where the conversation doesn't go that smoothly, right? And people are at this for a very long time because they haven't figured out the tools to help navigate so that you can have this level of harmony between work and home. Well, let's say business and home, entrepreneurship and home, because two W-2 employees coming together, it's easy. We both get off at a certain time, and so that just kind of works out. For us, it's kind of different, but it sounds like you guys have been able to find something that worked. Now, I know some of your backstory, so I kind of feel like I have a little bit of bias in this, in some of the questions that could be asked. But I do want to ask, like, so when it comes to finances, did you guys change how you approach your finances versus when you were a W-2 employee to entrepreneur? Like, how do you guys, what changed in y'all dynamic with finances?
So we were unique in our finances from the very beginning. This is both of our second marriage. And in my first marriage, because my ex-husband was so bad with money, anytime he would spend money, I was instantly questioning him. Like, where'd you spend that $5, right? I mean, maybe not as petty as $5, but it was still, I was very, and I noticed that my brother and my sister-in-law had this dynamic to where they had certain bills that they were responsible for, and they kept separate accounts. And so I kind of had it in my mind. I was like, going forward, if I ever get married again, then we're gonna have our finances separate. And now fast forward, it has saved a lot of arguments, right? I don't have to I don't see what he's doing with his checking account. He doesn't see what I'm doing. He doesn't judge me if I buy something. I don't judge him, right? Because it's our own money and we've earned it. However, keeping everything separate there's other challenges that come with it. But the one thing we don't fight about is money. So plus it's futuristic, we're thinking about the future. We have had some conversations in the past year where I was like, hey, let's join finances. Let's, do this because there are areas that he's stronger at. Like he's much stronger at budget, whereas I'm much better at planning. So if we were to join forces, but I think he looks at it like, so you want me to take on the headache of budgeting your money and what you do? And then there's also this part of me too where, and I think that was part of it for me was because in my first marriage there was so much control. I was being controlled. And so I've been really resistant to that in a lot of ways because I don't want to feel like I definitely don't want somebody that's going to tell me what to do, right? And so it's kind of nice that he doesn't. Like personality wise, we match. We clash at times, but for the most part, we come together on a lot of things.
Yeah. But I feel like you said it. You said, I know if we come together, we could probably do so much more. What's keeping you from coming together? Curious.
Yeah, it's mostly on his part. I mean, like when we were discussing the Matrix a few weeks ago, I feel like, and not entirely, if you heard me saying this, you'd be like, what do you mean I'm in the Matrix still? But he kind of is, right? A lot of the things that he says, I hear the programming and the paradigms and stuff, right? His definition of success based on what his parents had fed him growing up was to go to college. His sisters and him, they all are highly educated. Like he has a sister that has a PhD. His other one has a bachelor's degree and he has a master's degree. Like they're just very, very all about getting education. But it's kind of funny because I'm like, man, but you're also limited with what you can do based on your education. So I can't have conversations like that with him because then that sounds like I'm being judgmental or insulting. So there are areas where I have to tread very, very lightly, but it would be amazing if he was, if him and I partnered because he literally is the other half to me. The things where I'm weak, he's really strong. And he doesn't like real estate.
No, and that's fear that he doesn't like it. I think it's a beautiful conversation because in some way, shape, or form, Jazz is still not like me. I think and I'm gonna say, you're the entrepreneurial leader, right? And as the leader, not the leader of your home, but as the visionary of your home, I would say that you're definitely the visionary when it comes to that. And I always kind of watch my words when I'm talking to the alpha female who's married to the integrator male, right? They're like, it is what it is, but you guys have to tread a little bit lighter because it's like you're leaving this area of your home, but there's still reverence for the other piece, right? So it's not me trying to run the home, but this is the area that you have the vision and you could build things and they could make it better because you could only see it, they build it really, right? And so I think we have a special duty, and it's really up to us to make the full potential of our relationships come through. And what I mean by that is, as the leader, getting them in the right rooms, being able to understand how they receive information and communicating with them so that they hear or they see the opportunity, that's the dance that we are constantly and consistently have to figure out. So it's almost like being students and you call sellers. So it's almost like trying to find a seller's pain point and then using the pain point to be able to get the sale, right? That's our job for us at home, to be able to get us all on the same page. Now, do you think you do a lot of that at home to be able to get you guys on the same page?
I would say if my husband was a normal man, I would probably have like and I say that like I'm trying to say it carefully. As women, we can kind of manipulate a little bit, right? We have the power of doing that, and with my husband, I don't have that power. He is just extremely intelligent, and so I just have to be really careful. Like he knows it, he can smell it, he can sense it. So when it comes to like the power of influence or trying to kind of guide something a certain way, it takes a really long time for me to find that thing to the commonality or the thing. Just because he's not normal. Like I don't. He's very unique, and with most people, I can usually understand their psychology and their woo. Right, I can usually persuade them somehow. But with him, it's like it's not easy. He doesn't make it easy.
Yeah.
Um, but honestly, I mean, I know his main goals. His main goals are to be debt free. His main goals is to have peace in the house and to just have this peaceful, comfortable, calming life at home. And once I feel like it's a matter of me getting to a certain point before I can start to get his buy. So I think if I can create some of those things, like if I can eliminate our debt, and then I can prove that I did that, right? He's going to start being more on board.
Got it.
So it just
Okay.
takes patience.
So you think that it's more of a outcome based to be able to get him to be on board? I could see what you mean by that. Here's what I would say, because something that worked for one of our other clients and even myself is that I could try to share a vision with Jazz as from now till God comes. And there would just be some resistance with it until I share a full game plan. Like if I shared a full game plan with details and numbers and all those things, then it's like, oh, yeah, cool, we can do that. I'm like, I've been trying to show you this for like however long, but I had to learn how to speak her language and how she receives information. You and I, we could jump on the phone and talk all that visionary stuff, and I could totally see it. People like them has to see a process and numbers in place to be able to be like, I see what you mean. But we're impatient. And so we don't want to take the time to create the plan because it's like, well, that's what they're good at. Why don't you do it, right? That's kind of how we see it. But I've realized that taking the initial time and my head hurts, I'm like, I gotta slow down and do this thing just to get her on board. But when I do it, then the buy-in is there, and then we're able to be like, okay, let's go. Do you think you take the time to get the buy-in by giving that level of detail? Because you said you didn't have the influence, and if you have that level of intelligent man, he may need a game plan, a full game plan with numbers.
So have I? No. And that's where a lot of my stubbornness comes in too. We're both stubborn people, him and I both. So, like when you were just explaining that, I was like, well, that kind of sounds like the integrator's job, and that would be better. He's so much better. Like he can do a graph. He can show me a pie chart. He can create all of the he can create a spreadsheet and show me the breakdown of everything. But for me to do that, it's like, oh my gosh. I don't even know if I can. But and see, and that's what kind of stinks, I think, for me. It's because I can't use the things that I'm already strong at to do it, because those things don't influence him. So I would have to dig into and learn things that I'm weaker at, that I don't necessarily like to do. Um, which is why I think for me, I was like, I've just got to prove the concept. And lately I've been proving it, but I've got to go even bigger, right? So I just, once I do that, then I know I'll have his body. And I think part of it, the struggle for me, is articulating it to him, because I can see it in my head. You know, I know where we could be if we were both on board. He also, it doesn't help that he literally has aphantasia. He can't visualize stuff. So I would have to do it in a presentation. I would have to completely, like, I would probably have to create pie charts and everything and show him what our life would look like. But to me, that's like a struggle with my something that I not only am I weak at, I don't enjoy stuff like that at all. And oh my gosh, that would be so much stress for me too. And honestly, with saying all of this out loud, I can tell I've been avoiding it,
Me
because
too.
I because it's like, man, like, I don't know, if I gotta create, and I gotta dream and visualize, and I gotta make the stuff happen already, to like break us out from where we're at, to add that extra. I don't know. I don't know if I have it in me to where, yeah. So it's a matter of patience, or learning to do the things to communicate to him to get him on board. I guess at this point, I feel like I'm in that comfortable space of, hey, he's not fighting me and he's not discouraging me. So I'm good.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
The question becomes, and only you could answer this, is the vision clear enough where you both are doing this thing together? Or are you ignoring that innate thing that you're feeling and choosing a different path because you don't want to do what it takes to get you both on the same path? Because here's why. Because I don't want you to be disappointed when you got the biggest check of your life and it still doesn't move him. Because those things will not move him.
No, that's true. I mean, like I said, I know what some of his motivators are. And honestly, just even talking with you right now, it's like I can, I'm having all these thoughts with, like, the one thing I used to be really, really bad at, and I noticed, I said something about that to his weekend. I was the worst listener in our relationship. He would say things and I wouldn't hear him. And, I would flip it back around to my own defense, or, whatever else was going on in my head. I somehow would flip it back to me, right? All about me.
Mm-hmm.
Terrible, right? Terrible thing to even admit. But I know it's kind of like roundabout answering you, but um, I have been working so hard to change just that about me, that I'm catching myself when he goes to have a deep conversation with me, and I start to hear myself, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm doing it. I'm doing that thing you hate, and I need to listen right now to what you're saying. So right now, with me working on that, I'm working on my listening skills. And some days, like when I recognize it, I'm like, how have you put up with me for this long? Like, man, I have just been like so. But so it's the avoiding. I mean, I'm avoiding. Um,
Why?
you know, I think it's because I don't know if it's I don't know if it's a part of me that feels like there's only so many hard tasks I can handle in a day. And when you're an entrepreneur, your plate is full of those.
Yeah.
So it's like, do I want to have those hard conversations too with him to get him on board? I don't know. Like, and two, I think there's a fear that he might sway me the other way so that I end up back in the matrix. And
Hmm.
I know he's like so indoctrined with it that I don't think I could change him. And I don't need to change him. I just need him to I don't know. I don't know. That's a really hard one. That's a really hard question.
Yeah, and that right there is the key, I believe, where we become so much students of them, where we learn, just like following up with a seller, we follow up until we pull that pain out, until we get the motivator or the thing or the right words or the right to be able to persuade. And for me, it's been in steps and phases. Like, we're still at phases of things where just the understanding of business and entrepreneurship is continuing to grow. And as I grow, now I have to be able to communicate this in a way where there's buy-in, right? And so, because her rate of growth isn't as fast as mine when it comes to learning new things, but we're partners, and so it's like, how do I get that download down, because she might be running on version 2.0 and I'm on 3.0 or 4.0, and I'm because we're learning every day, I'm sure, right? And so it then becomes, well, what's their best way of learning? How do they learn best, right? And so I've figured out how my wife learns best. Coaches, gotta have a coach. Not that she doesn't respect me, it's just easier when it comes from a coach. It just works. So I'm like, I gave up the whole. I said that I gave that whole spiel up like a couple of years ago, because to me it's being sub to the mission. So whatever the mission is, I don't care how we get there. My job is to get us there, right? So that's one way. Another thing she does enjoy or like or would hear is conferences. And so we'd go to conferences. She is not don't try to give her a coaching program. Don't want it. Like, the quickest way for me to fail is to be like, hey, I need you to watch this coaching program. Like, no, she's not doing it, or go read this book or listen to this podcast, like that's just not her vibe. So I'm like, well, okay then. And we've gotten into several disagreements and me taking it personal and all that stuff over trying to find the right thing. But because the mission is so great, and my belief is that we need to do it together, that allows me to keep going back and keep trying and continuing to have the hard conversations, continuing to do all those things. It makes it worth it for me.
You know, I just realized something in this conversation. I think for me, it's more the fear. Um, I don't want to be told what to do or what not to do. And I think if I slow down to try to get us both on the same page, um, and and this might be detrimental thinking, but um, yeah, I don't I don't want him to say my dreams are stupid or,
Mhm.
that he's not going to support it. And if he becomes more of a partner, then he gets some of that control and that say so.
Got it. That makes
Because
that makes a lot of sense.
because there's other things that like I want to create in life that like I've put on my own shoulders where I'm like this is something I need to create. One of those things is like our dream home, my dream home. It's not our dream home because we're kind of living in his dream home and it's not my dream home. He was able to go and pick this house. We've had a lot of discussions about even that. And, since he's not a visionary and he literally can't picture things in his head, I've tried to even sit down with him and get his feedback. Well, what would you want the living room to look like? And then I was like, hey, do you like this kitchen? Well, don't I get a say? Well, do you cook anything? like, so it's almost like this clashing of, and so I noticed that, to get his feedback wasn't going to match my feedback. And so I started to realize, like, I was like, I don't know. We would have to learn how to dream together because my dreams are right now. If he puts input into my dreams, then they're not entirely my dreams. So,
Do you believe in two becoming one and having a unified vision?
kind of.
Mhm.
Yes. Yes. Like I said, like I can see the parts of where if him and I worked in this business together, he looks at it like he would just be doing another job. So he wants nothing to do with it. But I can see where his strengths would help me accelerate. Like
Yeah.
it would speed up this process that I've been trudging through and trying to get to a certain point at least, and it would just speed all that up if he was on board. But
But are you willing to do the work to get him on board? I I don't hear where,
no.
as much as you could see, like, and you know that he's the missing piece, there's still a lovingly selfish part that's just like, I don't
Mhm.
want to do the work to make that happen. I rather, so it's, you rather live comfortably than go through the uncomfortable conversations and the hard work of getting on the same page to actually achieve your dreams.
So yes. Yeah. I mean, yeah, honestly, that's a big part of it. But I feel like where him and I need to merge first is in our finances. Um, because, where he could help keep me reined in, I need that. And I need that since he can budget for me to be able to say, here's what all I want to do. And I've even had that conversation with him before. I was like, you can break stuff down into
Mhm.
those finer details. And if all I would need is for you to say, this is what you need to do, and then I'd be off to the races,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
But his argument is once upon a time, he put together this pie chart and he wasn't speaking my language to show me, right? And so he started to like give me this presentation, so to speak. And it literally was actually a presentation. And I was like,
You shut it down.
I shut it down. And that
Yeah.
was a few years ago. That was before I even started getting into this bigger growth part, right? And
Yeah.
so now I wouldn't do that. I'd be like, oh, please explain that. I ask more questions. But now he's like, nope, I tried that once upon a time.
Yeah.
so, um, so yeah, I don't know. I know it takes a lot of work, but I guess I don't really know what to say to get him on board.
Well, it would require you to try different things. what we say in the house is like, I remain a student of hers because, I mean, even now with the baby, things has changed and how she received love and all that type of stuff. And so it's literally learning his KPIs. Because when you know his KPIs as to what moves the needle for him, then you could pour more money into it, make more calls, do whatever, right? Just like business, where you do more of one thing to get an outcome. Now you know exactly what levers to pull to get the outcome that you want. But it requires a lot of conversation, a lot of difficult conversation, and a deep desire for the outcome of being able to work together. If that desire isn't there, then you're gonna quit on this because it is a lot harder than it is easy, but it's a lot more worth it on the other side, you know? And so it's like making that commitment. And the fact that you know, and you could feel it and you could see it, it's gonna haunt you if you don't live that out. And one of the quotes that I'm gonna make like my quote, especially in having these conversations, is success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure, right? Like, you could do and make all the money that you want. That fulfillment or not fulfillment of you guys manifesting what you see there, you're still going to feel unfulfilled because you know that you'd be able to do more with him on your side. You could make $10 million. You would still feel like, man, I could have probably done 30 with him on my side. You know what I mean? And so you're still going to feel like the ultimate failure if you don't do what it takes because you could see it and you could feel it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think for him, um,
It ain't
I
on
get, I
him.
guess,
It ain't on him. This has nothing to do with him, actually. It has everything to do with you. You know why? Because you are the visionary of this department of your home. He isn't going to see this. So it's up to you to take the leadership here to be able to guide him to y'all's financial promised land. So this has nothing to do with him. You see it, now you have to work backwards to make that happen. So you could talk about how whatever he is, there is a way. It's you figuring out what that way is and being committed enough to making it happen.
yep.
Sorry.
All the other problems I have to solve in business, and honestly, I feel like maybe that part of me I've been a little bit lazy on because it's like, he's there, he's a great husband, he's supportive, right?
Comfort. That's comfortable.
Yeah,
You're just like, yeah, like let me not rock the cradle. This is cool. I'll take this, right? Nah. I'm like poke bear. Like that's me all day. I'm like, hey, there's much more for us. What do we have to do? You know, like what do you have to do? And I always share very transparently with you guys. Like, so we have a session tomorrow with one of our coaches, our relationship and business coach. And there are things that we're navigating that we're taking into that conversation, right? And so, but that's one of the things that's put in place to be able to continue to get to that promised land, right? Because that's how she receives information. Me too. It works. It works both ways. We both benefit big time from it. But that expedites all conversation, all everything. So it's like super useful. You're going to have to figure out, how does this person receive information, and 10x on that. Like, if it is that we're in the tightest spot, coaching would be one of the, like how people cut coaching first. Like, oh man, we got to cut budget and all that. We ain't cutting that. We need that. that's like a necessity in my home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it helps us navigate.
Right. Yep. I know I need to have the, it's funny because I was trying to picture how best to communicate with him. I'd have to write a book about it.
Hey,
Because he's a
whatever
reader and
works.
he understands words way better than he understands like anything else. So, yeah. Yeah. I think the first step is, though, financial. Because I think if right now he probably feels like I'm not sold on his vision of our finances.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's not seeing the proof of that, right? So I need to I need to step up and do the things and get just very strict on budget, which feels like control, which I fight it. But that's, maybe that's where I show him.
You're willing to do some things.
Yeah. I'm going to just tell myself the same thing that you always say. It's just delayed gratification.
But
If I don't spend money, it's delayed gratification.
Yo, move slower to move faster. Literally. Move slower to move faster. Like, that's it right there. Especially if you're sold on who you guys are together and what you could create, it would be worth it way more to make that happen than to go about what you're trying to do now. And it's not that you're not doing okay, but you could do way more with him at your side. But it's work. It's work. Well, this was a lovely conversation. I feel like we just did a coaching session.
I was going to say, isn't it supposed to be like, how are you succeeding in business and being married? And it's like, we're just coexisting.
But here's the thing, man, is still taking kudos, because what you've done and how you guys are navigating, most people wouldn't even dare to try, right? And so at least you've gotten it to a steady point. Like, relationships have gone apart because they haven't figured out what you have already. So kudos to you. And thank you for being a part of this conversation that I'll be having all week long, all month long, with different people. So I really, really, really appreciate you, and thank you.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me.
No problem. All right, guys. So as we wrap up, remember that success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. I hope you guys are enjoying these episodes. Let me know in the chat. Let me know in the comments. And if there's a specific topic when it comes to marriage and business that you would like for me to talk on, I would love to hear your feedback. So until next time, peace.